Another way that people don't progress is that they don't have in the back of their mind what I call their reference feeling. So if you go back to A again, that peak in A might be their reference feeling. So your reference feeling would be the best feeling that you've had to date for a certain aspect of riding a certain kind of horse. So maybe it's the day your horse most brought his back up underneath you and most reached into the rein, and where you felt less wobbly and more secure, let's say. And that's your reference feeling. And essentially, as you're riding along, it's as if you're saying to yourself, how close am I to my reference feeling? What do I need to do to get closer? Do I know the answer to that? Let me try this. And maybe you're scrabbling about trying to find ways to get closer to your reference feeling. And through the learning process that we show here in B or C, you're learning to get closer to your reference feeling. Now, if you just accept what you're given, rather than making that comparison, then you'll just ride along accepting you're given, and the chances are that the horse will be running the show and you'll just be trucking along, probably under-focused, just accepting what you're given. So in that ideal focus, there's the difference between just accepting what you're given in a rather under-focused way, or maybe going for it in a desperate, determined, trying hard, over-focused way. And within noticing, you're trying to learn to want it just the right amount. So a friend of mine told me the story of how many years ago Robert Hall, who was the first rider, I think, in the UK to go to the Spanish riding school. He might not have been, actually. That might have been Charles Harris. But he was up there as one of the early riders to train at the Spanish riding school. And he ran Fulmer School of Equitation and went, maybe in the 80s or 90s, he went to live in the US. And he said to this friend of mine, and this is a quote, "When I get on a horse, I know what I want. And I want it enough that I'm really willing to put myself out to get it. But I don't want it so much that it matters if I don't." I think that's lovely. This is a sort of Zen in the art of horse riding. So he wants it enough that he's really willing to put himself out to get it, but he doesn't want it so much that it matters if he doesn't. And one of the questions is, how much does it matter to you? And this, I have to say, has been one of the big learning curves of my life. I wrote about this quite a lot in For the Good of the Rider, because it used to matter to me a whole lot. And getting the horse on the bit matters far too much to far too many riders. So let's suppose you get on your horse and you start to ride a few transitions, and suddenly you go to yourself, that was a bad transition. And then you go, I can't ride transitions. And then you go, I'm having a bad day. And then you go, I'm a bad rider. And from that, you probably, even though you don't tell it to yourself, have concluded, I'm a bad person. Now that means every transition your horse makes, and potentially every step he has the possibility to prove that you are a good or bad person and rider. That means that every transition and every step he takes and every time he comes up in the air is loaded with meaning to you. And you're going to get that horse's nose down as quick as you can, because you don't want to be seen as bad. Now, you've probably been shouted at teachers for not having the horse on the bit, and you've probably been made to feel stupid, and you were probably following a really not very good map as all of this was happening. So it's no surprise that so many riders get themselves into that kind of pickle, where they want it too much because it defines who they are. What should be just a behavior has become a statement about identity. I rode a bad transition has become, I'm a bad rider and I'm a bad person. And the horse must prove that I'm a good rider and a good person, so then I can feel okay about myself.